Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Before we jump into today's episode, our second chapter of our Call of Cthulhu storyline, I want to say a huge thank you to Alexa of the Dead Horse podcast for joining me last week for our very first interview bonus episode. I'm going to be talking to a few other podcasters and members of the RPG community in future for more interviews, so hopefully you all enjoyed listening to it. I can also announce that next week, our second bonus episode is going to be our very first world building episode. I'm going to be joined by Eden, who you'll all recognise as Prance from our D&D campaign, the GM of our Shadowrun campaign, and as Barnard from this current Call of Cthulhu story. We'll be taking a look at the custom homebrew setting that we play our D&D stuff in, and coming up with a few new things for it. It should be super fun, so tune in for that next Thursday. Okay, let's quickly recap what happened last episode. We met our protagonists, Barnard Hardcastle, Alistair Fentworth, and Madam Sway, as they were travelling to the seaside town of Twynham-on-Sea by train. They each had their own reasons for visiting the town, but all ultimately found their way to get lodgings at Kendall's boarding house, an establishment near to the station run by a very proper old lady. Barnard made his way down to the local pub, later joined by Alistair, who had walked into the town to pick up tickets for a performance of The Tempest, which an old family friend was set to star in. Madam Sway elected to remain at the boarding house and ponder what brought her to the town. Eventually finishing their drinks, Barnard and Alistair made their way back to the lodgings, talking a little of their experiences during the war along the way. That's pretty much where we left off, so without any further ado, let's begin today's episode. Enjoy. The morning arrives, flooding your rented rooms with sunlight, the cheap, rather thin curtains unable to hold back the dawn, and each of you awakens in your own fashion. You can hear a clock chiming somewhere in the building, and soon after, from downstairs, the sounds of Mrs. Kendall serving breakfast in the boarding house's small dining room. As each of you enter, you note a couple of other guests at the table, who seem to mostly be keeping themselves to themselves, eating quietly. And as you take a seat at the dining table yourself, a plate is quickly placed and then filled in front of you. It's nothing too extravagant, sausages, beans, toast and such, but looks and smells pretty delicious.
Heart disease food.
Yeah, but it's 1930s, so, you know.
They don't know.
Like, who wants another slicing of angina? Who's doing what?
I make my way downstairs and sit down to bacon and eggs.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, that's fair enough.
It's breakfast. What more can I say?
Asked and answered.
Yeah.
The two of you, are you attending breakfast or are you off out early?
No, Madame Sway's already been up an hour getting herself ready.
Right.
Like, she'll have her very nice everyday dress, her hair nicely tied back into a nice bun, with her things ready for her day, and she'll make her way downstairs for breakfast.
Right. Okay. So yeah, as you get downstairs, a couple of men you don't recognise at the table. Mrs. Kendall's bustling around, and you see Alistair there as well, who you met the previous evening. To be tucking into nice breakfast.
Okay, Barnard's going to come downstairs, but he'd like to take a plate. So can I have a chat with whoever's serving this stuff and ask if I'm okay to take this back to the room?
Yeah, it's the same lady from the previous evening, Mrs. Kendall. She frowns a bit. You get the feeling that she's not particularly happy about food leaving the dining room, but she doesn't really argue with you about it. And
okay,
yeah, she sort of, well, if you must, Mr. Hardcastle, but I do prefer table manners be observed in my my establishment.
Having paid for your service, I'm not sure you've paid for my manners. And with that, he takes the plate up to his room and quietly kind of pulls the scarf down and eats by himself.
All right then. So you're quietly eating upstairs. The two of you eating downstairs. I think we could probably gloss over breakfast, and unless there's any conversation you guys want to be having because I'm presuming you're each going to be going off doing your own thing afterwards. I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly yes.
Okay. All right. So let's skim over breakfast then. It's not. We don't need to get too granular on that.
But it's the most important meal of the day.
It is. Yeah. You don't want to interrupt it with talk. It's just it's simple food, but it's good food, and you find yourselves well prepared for the day. Let's begin with Madam Sway. So you polish off your breakfast, gather up your things, and the day is yours. What would you like to do?
Sway is going to head to the theatre. Sorry, she's going to head to the theatre and see if she can.
Heading to the theatre?
Yes.
Yeah.
To see if she can talk to the director of the theatre.
Okay, so leaving the boarding house and heading out into the crisp morning air, you find it a little easier to take stock of your surroundings than in the darkness of your one brief visit outside for a cigarette the previous evening. It's still a little bit misty, but nothing like the soupy fog that was hanging around before, and you fairly easily find your way to the town's main high street. At the far end, the high street seems to terminate in a tall pair of black wrought iron gates, which look to lead into the graveyard of the town's church, which, looking around, you see is easily the tallest structure in the area. About halfway along the high street, however, you stop in front of your destination, a theatre with a wide frontage and a large painted sign proclaiming it the Regency. Briefly trying the closed front doors, you find them locked, but after a quick look around, you spot a narrow alleyway heading up the side of the theatre building, and a short distance along that, a small door, which you would guess to be the stage door, which appears to have been left slightly ajar.
And Sway's going to walk up to the door, knock on it politely, and call out before slipping inside, and to see if she can find someone. If her calls aren't answered. Nobody seems to answer the... you wait for a good sort of... it's up to you. How long do you wait? About 30 seconds, maybe.
Yeah, okay. So you're not like knocking and going, oh, nobody knocking and it's
no,
still reverbing and yeah. Okay. Nobody seems to answer in the 30 seconds, even though the door is ajar, so you kind of you can easily make your way inside. It does seem to be fairly deserted, although there are some soft electric lights on. You can see, sort of looking around, you're kind of in the backstage area a little bit. It's quite cramped back here. There's a series of sort of small doors along one side, which you would guess are sort of dressing rooms. A little ways along, there is a set of stairs heading up, and from up there you can hear some sounds of movement.
She's going to walk towards the dressing rooms first.
Okay.
And knock on the door there.
There doesn't appear to be any answer on the dressing rooms at this point. It's still fairly early on in the day, by the way, as well. That's the...
Oh, yeah, I suppose it's like 6:30, didn't you say?
Yeah, so I mean, with breakfast and the walk, it's maybe... Let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say it's coming up to 7:30 by the time you've got to here.
Okay. She is going to take out the letter that she has written for the director asking for employment, and just leave it in the dressing table.
Okay, just in the dressing room.
Yeah, in the dressing room.
Okay.
And hope, and if she doesn't hear a reply, she'll come back again later.
Right.
And then leave.
Okay. Have you left sort of a forwarding address on it? Or?
Yeah, she's written the boarding house address on the back of the letter.
Okay. Do you want to give us a general sort of gist of what it says in the letter, or is this?
So in the letter, she's basically applying herself as an actress and dancer and performer from Glasgow and Ayrshire with a number of her references from other party groups, and hopefully she will hear back.
Okay. So yeah, leaving it behind. Then you can still hear the sort of sounds of movement from up the top of the stairs and sort of creaking of some floorboards above you. But yeah, this is hopefully someone will find your letter and get back to you. So are you leaving the theatre at this point, or?
Yeah, she won't venture any further. It's a bit too rude and a bit early for her to scare some poor little sod. Or herself, really.
A bit early in the day for like creeping around the backstage of a theatre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, so you step back out onto the street. What would you like to do?
She would like to have a look around the sights, so I think she'll walk round the town, just meandering down the streets.
Okay.
To get a feel for the place.
All right, so let's say we start just sort of making our way along the high street a bit. You can see sort of left and right, there's a few shop frontages and that. A fair few of the buildings do look to just be kind of sort of a little bit residential, though. Near to the theatre, kind of from the way you came, there is a sort of large... You would guess it's kind of like a town hall, but it's kind of a... It's sort of a brick building with two floors and a sloping roof with a kind of small little bell tower on the top. It's just a sort of small building, really. There is a large brick library fairly close to the theatre itself again, which seems to be... There's signs of life inside, but it doesn't appear to be open yet. Continue along the road, you come to...
Starbucks.
Yeah. They're everywhere.
Costa.
They're everywhere these days.
No, Costa.
Even in the past.
No.
You come to the church gates, which I previously mentioned, and get a bit of a better view into the graveyard. They appear to be unlocked, but through it you can see a wide paved pathway leads to the front door of a quite tall church, which has got a sort of it's got a clock tower. It's got quite a long hall. No, nave. What's the name of it? Nave.
Nave. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big church.
Yeah.
So that again, the gates are open if you wanted to go in there. It's surrounded by a fairly large graveyard. Some of the stones in there do look fairly fresh. Not like they've been put up overnight creepily or anything. I just mean like in the last 10, 15
Freshly
years.
dug.
Yeah.
Freshly dug.
Yeah, it's yeah, some recently filled graves. If you wanted to continue through the graveyard, that's a way to go, or it's up to you. There's other places to explore through here.
I think she'll wander around the churchyard and have a look at the gravesides and just have a think to herself about where her life's going and what she's doing in the middle of nowhere. all the way from Ayr. She's travelled all the way from Ayr to be in the middle of nowhere on a recommendation from a friend. What has she done?
Okay, are you looking at the gravestones themselves, or are you just sort of making your way through and sort of idly looking? Or
I'll have a look at the most recent ones.
Most recent ones, okay.
Yeah, just to have a.
All right.
Yeah.
There's the most recent ones do appear to be, at least going by the dates on the headstone, they do appear to be. They seem to be of one of two different categories you could put them in. There's a few kind of new ones that seem to be mostly elderly people based on the dates, which don't seem to be out of place at all or anything. But off to one side, there's, I wouldn't say it's a large amount, but there's a few there that all the dates on them, there's a variety, but the ages are a little. They kind of vary, but none of them seem to be particularly old, and all of the gravestones themselves seem to be all of a very similar sort of size and sort of style, and they're all quite sort of. It's nothing too ostentatious about the gravestone style. It's almost like, well, we've got to put up a gravestone. This is like, we'll go for the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of thing.
It's like a council grave, basically.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
If you're lucky.
And those are all in the last couple of years. None of them seem to have any kind of like, you occasionally see a grave that has got like a, served his country in the war, and there are a few of those around here. Although they've obviously been there for about 15 years or so now. It's about 15 years since the end of the First World War. Well, the Great War, because it's 1932. They wouldn't have a second one.
Is there any pattern to the name at all? Is there any like high concentration that seem unusual?
Let's do a skill check on this.
Ooh,
because we haven't had many of them.
No.
What would this be? Okay, so make a history check for me. So this is D100. Got to get under 40. 46. It's just narrowly a failure on that one, but still a failure, I'm afraid.
No.
You can't really pick out any pattern. They just kind of stand out as being fairly recent, really.
Curious.
And they all share the same sort of basic sort of like, absolute minimum sort of style. There's no ornamentation on them at all.
Poor sods.
But as far as you can tell, there's no real connection in names or anything like that. Okay, so continuing your walk around the graveyard a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go into the church and.
Into the church, okay.
Yeah,
right.
We'll just go into the church and.
Okay, so walking in through a big pair of carved wooden doors, you're struck immediately by just how large it all appears inside. Lights streaming in from above through stained glass windows. In the background, you can hear an organ playing kind of aimlessly. There's a few people spread around, sort of sat in the pews, keeping themselves really. But there's currently no one up in the pulpit either. There's no priest, no vicar or anything like that. So yeah, it's a fairly large for such a small town. It's quite a large, sort of ostentatious church.
Just going to take a seat and just enjoy the quiet solitude for a bit.
Okay. We'll come back to you then in a bit, I think, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's go with Alistair next.
Okay.
So you finished your breakfast?
Indeed.
What would you like to do?
Finishing breakfast, I go back up to my room to fetch my coat, and I put the coat on, making sure that my trowel is with me.
Your trowel? Okay.
Alistair carries a trowel wherever he goes.
You can never be too careful. You never know when you might need one.
Exactly.
All good archaeologists do. Speaking
Exactly.
as an archaeologist.
Well, there you go. Yes, Alistair's mother actually got him into archaeology, and it's her trowel that he carries with him.
Aww.
The lucky trowel.
The lucky trowel, yes. So, taking the trowel, he leaves the lodgings, saying goodbye to Mrs. Kendall on the way out.
She, have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much, and you. And I'm doing this very posh, aren't I?
Yeah, it's fine. No.
Yeah, it works. It works. So, leaving the lodgings, he decides to go for a walk along the seafront.
Okay. So, yeah, you're a little bit more familiar with this town than the others. It's a little bit of a walk from where you are. You cross over a bridge, over a river, making your way up to the clifftops. On your left, as you're heading to the cliffs, you see a long road stretching towards. Again, in the far distance, you can see some gates and a large high fence, but that's not the way you're going. So you find yourself eventually on the cliff top, and it's quite a windy day. See the surf breaking and that, and looking around, it's fairly solitary up here. There's not too many people about. But yes, you feel the wind in your hair and a bit of a stiff sea breeze.
Okay.
And yet you're alone with your thoughts.
Alone with the thoughts, yes. Okay, so I'm up on the cliffs. Alistair takes in the view, what little he can see of it.
Looking around, you've got quite a sort of expansive view of the coastline. To your right, the bay kind of stretches round in a curve. In the far distance, you can see a couple of ships in the far distance. None of them seem to be heading near to Twynham-on-Sea. As you look to your left, you get your first kind of real glimpse of the large headland, which is sort of looks over the what you know to be the harbour area, the large sort of harbour area of the town, and you would know that this headland is mostly fenced off. It's part of you don't know the name of it, but you remember from when you were younger that there's quite a large manor house and estate on the grounds near the headland, sort of again overlooking the harbour. You get your first glimpse of this headland. It's quite imposing, sort of at the end of the particular set of cliffs that you are on. And you know if you continue in that direction, you will eventually hit a fence blocking your way.
So Alistair looks intently towards the manor house, wondering who the occupants were. Obviously, he never knew. He just knew that the place was there. Do I notice anything particularly odd about it? Like, is it run down, broken into? Is it pristine compared to the other
It's still
surroundings?
a fair distance away. It doesn't look. It's not broken down at all. It's not run down.
Right.
As far as you can tell from this distance, it could be occupied, but you don't know.
Okay. Is there anyone else walking around the cliffs as well, or is it just me?
You can't see anybody up here at the moment.
Okay. There goes that option.
Yeah.
Asking somebody about the house.
Hey, what's the deal with that house?
Yeah. Yeah, I talk modern in the 30s, yeah. Okay, I walk a little bit further along to get closer to the manor house.
Right, okay.
Not right up to the gate, but close enough to see more detail about the place.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, as you get closer, you get to a better look at the house. It sort of sits in the shadow of this large headland. It's still a fair distance away from where you are, but you kind of, as you say, you get kind of as close as you can, really, without being like fully up against the gate. It's fairly large, sort of a brick building. Looks like it's been there a while. I mean, its placement alone is it's very much sort of in. You would guess it gets a lot of sort of sea air from where it is, so it's kind of a bit exposed to the elements of it being where it is. The grounds around it don't appear to be overgrown, really, so that would maybe be a clue that it's still occupied. It being the morning, there's no lights on or anything like that. So that yeah, I mean, there's no signs of movement for what you can see, but there's signs that it could possibly still be inhabited. The gates are closed. You can see them from where you are.
Right. Okay. That sort of settles my curiosity for the time being. So I'm going to turn the opposite direction and walk back towards the town, but
Okay.
a bit closer to the water. Just following
Following the river.
Yeah, rather
Yeah.
than taking the pathways around it.
Yeah. There's pathways along it, and there's a couple of little sort of fishing huts along there, or on both sides of the river, really. But there's one or two on the side that you're at.
Okay.
And yeah, you can make your way back to the bridge that you crossed over if you would like.
Yes, I shall make my way to the bridge.
Are you heading back to town then, or are you just are you just going for a bit of a constitutional?
No, just going out for a leisurely walk.
Taking in the air.
Taking in the air, taking in the sights, seeing what else has changed, and this is probably the first time Alistair's been out of London in quite a while.
So it's a good change of scenery for him.
Yeah, he lives in South London, and it's usually quite a bustling metropolis, even in the suburbs around the city. So this is just a nice break to be somewhere a bit more simple, simplistic, and not a central hub of...
Bit less smoggy as well.
Less smog, less people, less vehicles driving around.
Okay, so you haven't got a general destination in mind then for your walk?
No, just taking the kind of scenic route and then working my way back into the centre of the town.
Yeah, okay. So not really looking for anything in particular?
Not at this stage, no.
No, okay.
No.
All right.
Is the weather still just windy?
It's windy. It's kind of cloudy. It's not like ominous storm clouds or anything. It's just kind of generally sort of a bit of a nasty grey day. Really.
Right. So no,
not raining.
Nothing.
It's just kind of like you're like, oh, this is October, November weather. We will go over to Barnard then.
Okay, so Barnard is going to head downstairs, returning his plate, which is cleared. Give it to the lady behind the desk and wander out the front door out to see if he can find any hackney carriages, any form of transport he can jump on nearby.
Okay. There's a couple of cars going around. You don't see any of the There was only a couple of taxis at the station the previous night anyway, so you would guess that maybe that was the full extent of the Twynham-on-Sea taxi contingent. But yeah, you don't really see any. It might be a case of walking back up to the station and getting one from there if you wanted one. Okay.
Well, seeing nothing outside, I'm going to pop back into the lodgings again real quickly and have a quick word with the lady at the desk and ask. I require transport to the sanitarium. Do you know a number, perhaps? Is there a service we can call?
Oh, no, I don't think there's anyone we can call for transportation. If you wanted a taxi, your best bet is to head back to the train station, I would think.
Noted. And with that, he gives her a little nod and heads back out the door again.
Right.
And heads towards the train station.
Okay. It's actually not too far of a walk, really, in daylight. You probably didn't need to take a cab the previous evening, but you didn't know where you were going, so that's fine. Sort of retracing the steps of the cab, I presume you were were you keeping enough of an eye out of the window when you were...
Oh, yes. He was sat staring out the window as they travelled.
Okay. Yeah, it's not too big of a deal for you to find your way to the station. About 5 minutes walk gets you there. And there's only one cab waiting there at the moment. It is not the one that you got the previous night. The driver is leaning on it, reading a newspaper.
Okay, wander over to him then and draw his attention.
Morning, Gov.
Morning. I need to travel to the sanitarium.
To the sanitarium? Oh yes, a popular destination these days. Hop in.
As he gets into the car, Barnard says to him, "Popular? What do you mean, popular?"
Well, a lot of folks coming from out of town to get seen to up there. Tell you the truth, most of them want to head straight there from the station, so that's where we normally park up.
I see. I mistook your tone there. Popular made it sound as though there was some kind of entertainment taking place, and you gave me pause for thought.
Well, I suppose one man's definition of entertainment might vary from another.
Nothing that takes place in a sanitarium is entertaining, my friend. And with that, he kind of just stares at him through the wind, the mirror and everything. He sort of catches his eye and has a very intense look about him as he says that.
Just walking around staring at people hard is what I'm getting from your character so far.
Oh yeah, he's an intense man.
Okay, yeah, the guy seems to get the point, and he doesn't really say much else after that.
Okay, well, we'll just keep quiet until we get there then.
Yeah, it's a short drive to the sanitarium, kind of heading out of the main part of town. Still a few buildings around on the way. It's not like you're leaving town, but it's very much on the outskirts. As he pulls up, he drops you off at the main entrance gate, and you get your first look at the Fairmile Sanitarium. Before you, along a gravel driveway, you see a rather imposing 2-storey brick building with a tall, steep roof. It's fairly long, stretching away from you for several hundred metres, and the grounds around you seem to be fairly expansive. But looking left and right, you can see that the whole place is ringed by a sturdy-looking iron fence, about 10 to 15 feet high. Parked outside the building's main entrance are a pair of vehicles, each bearing a Red Cross symbol on the side, and you would surmise that these are the closest this place has to ambulances. It doesn't appear deserted around here, however. In the distance you can see a groundsman at work on the far side of the front lawn, and looking closely on the upper floor you can just about spot movement through some of the windows.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'll just head straight into the main entrance then, and whoever's at the desk, I'll give the old tap on the ground with the cane and announce myself with a good morning.
Behind the desk is a male orderly. It says, good morning, sir. Welcome to the Sanitarium. What can I help you with today?
I'm here to visit one of your patients, a man by the name of Jenkins.
He pulls open a large, sort of, again, another kind of ledger that does remind you of the one at the boarding house, and he sort of takes him a minute or two to go through. So Jenkins. Oh, here we are. Roger Jenkins, is that it?
That's the man.
Right, yeah, he's in Ward 3. This I can't leave my post, but if you head down this corridor to the end, up the stairs, and that should get you there.
I appreciate the assistance. And with that, he gives him, still fixed eyes on him, gives him a little kind of nod with the eyes fixed all the way, and then heads off down the corridor. Right.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the directions are fine, and as you make your way into the upstairs and into the ward, you can see it's quite a long room, and beds lining the sides, and it seems to be fairly full of people in various states. Let's put it that way. I mean, just glancing around, there's people with a variety of different injuries. Some of them don't appear to be outwardly injured at all. Some of them are bandaged in different ways. Quite a few seem to have bandages around their midsections. You not really being a medical man, you couldn't really you couldn't fathom what that might mean, but it just does seem it's a pattern that you notice immediately. A little ways along, you eventually spot Jenkins lying in a bed.
At the sight of Jenkins, Barnard walks forwards with a slight lightness starting to creep over his face for the very first time. Heads over and announces himself. Jenkins, it's been some time.
Oh, that you are, Castle?
Yes. And as he approaches the bed, he kind of takes off his hat and holds it in hand. So how are you doing, old boy?
Oh, well, you know how it goes. Still keeping it all together for now.
Yeah. So I received your letter and the unfortunate news of the turn of your condition. I'm very sorry to hear that time is short.
Well, you never know. I mean, that's why I'm here. You know, they say the doc here does he works miracles. We can hopefully they could hopefully sort me out finally. This is it's the old wound.
Yes, one you survived back when we charged.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Is there kind of like is there a chair I could possibly join him, sit next to the bed? And I'm just trying to paint the picture in my mind of walk over to the bed, want to sit down with him and kind of lean over and enjoy this conversation. Yep,
definitely. There's a chair you can pull up next to it.
Cool. So. Yes, obviously I still suffer with my condition, and he kind of pulls the scarf down a little bit to show Jenkins what's going on with his face. And
oh yeah, nasty that, wouldn't it? Well, at least you're up and walking. More you can say for me.
Yes, I count blessings. And with that, he kind of smiles a little bit and kind of catches Jenkins' eye again and says, "Well, I've brought a little something to perhaps help us pass the time. And you remember those cigarette cards you used to collect back in the day?"
Oh yeah, I had lots of them.
And Barnard reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small deck, probably about 30 or 40 of these things, and reaches them out in front of him and starts flicking through and says, "I've brought my collection through. I know you're a big fan of these, the train collection. I've got the Flying Scotsman here," and starts going through them and reading off these things while the guys kind of have a little look in.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I had a few of these, this series, but I've never seen this one before. When did you get this one?
I've been indulging the habit, I must say. Are you able to get out of here and enjoy a little puff from time to time?
Oh, it's tight. You know, sometimes got to convince the nurses. Got to play it a bit sweet sometimes. You know, get them to give me a bit of freedom.
Okay. Hearing this, Barnard smiles and says, "I just so happen," and he reaches into his breast pocket and pulls out 2 cigars, "to have these with me. Now, old friend, would you say to, take a little load off, pop outside, catch a little bit of that healing sea air?"
Jenkins's eyes kind of light up at the sight of the cigars, and he smiles a little bit conspiratorially. Well, let's see if we can get. Yeah, I'd like that very much. Hang on, let's have a look around here. And you can see him looking around and sort of trying to gauge which of the nurses is probably the most amenable to granting him a bit of a jaunt out for the day. He sort of he finally goes, "Oh, right, yeah, this might work." He waves over one of the nurses. Excuse me, nurse. My friend's here visiting me." She kind of gives you a little bit of a withering look.
As she looks over, Barnard pulls his scarf back up over his face a little bit, not wanting to be seen quite as clearly by her.
Okay. Jenkins continues. He's only down for, well, how long are you here for?
I was planning around a week. Maybe I'd come back a couple of times. We can catch up a little bit more. Maybe we'll see how we go today. See, I don't want to wear you out. You're here to rest and everything, but yes, around a week, and then I should expect I'll be heading back home.
Well, yeah, as you say, he's only here for a week, so we were really hoping we could go. We could just go out and go outside for a bit, you know, take in some of the sea breeze and all that. I know I've been cooped up in here all week. You think that'd be all right? She again kind of just sort of takes in your look, Barnard, just to sort of kind of gauge what she thinks from your look. Your kind of what kind of a friend you might be, or you know what I'm saying. She looks and she pulls the chart off the end of his bed and says, "Well, you do have your procedure in the morning, so it would have to be a brief trip out."
"I'll not keep him long, rest assured."
"So long as you can vouch for getting him back, only for an hour or so."
Yes, we just wanted a little walk out, grab some of that sea air.
Okay, all right. I will. I'll go get you a wheelchair, but you must bring him back. He's got a very important procedure tomorrow.
Yes, rest assured.
Yeah. She disappears for a minute or so, comes back with a it's a 1932 style wheelchair. Jenkins seems very happy to being able to leave his bed. You gather from what he'd said that it's been some time he's been kind of laid up in here. Also from his letter that he sent you as well, he's been here for a little while.
Okay.
So yeah, you essentially are signing him out for a little bit, and you make your way out of the gates of the sanitarium.
Okay. So as soon as we're out of the gate, I'm going to lean in and sort of chuckle to him and be like, it's just like the old days, getting away from the barracks for a couple of hours.
Yeah, brings it back.
Well, let's not dawdle on this smoke. And he passes the cigar over to him and pulls a lighter out of his pocket, a small Zippo style lighter, and lights up Jenkins' cigar for him. I'm going to spark up his smoke and then spark up Barnard's smoke as well, and take a big deep puff.
Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, these are good, aren't they?
Ah, yes. Very, very smooth.
Yes, I haven't had anything quite like this in some time, as you know. Been a bit under the weather.
Yes. How exactly do you feel these days, friend? I mean, I appreciate that it's the wounds that you got from charge, and I remember dragging you back across the field after I'd finished that melee, and you were in an awful state. I'm sorry to see you in such a terrible state now, quite frankly. And
not a great deal better, really. As you know, I did the best on the day. And of course, I'll never forget you dragging me back after all that.
I don't think anyone forgets those days. I believe they haunt the minds of us all. And how do you sleep, my friend? I tend to struggle these days. I look in the mirror and I see the state of myself, and I think, what have I done to deserve this? What did any of us do to deserve it?
Well, quite, yeah. So, sleep does come with some difficulty. Let's leave it at that. Not helped by the pain, of course, but yes, as I said, this doctor they've got here, Dr. Quarterly, he's supposed to be very good. I'm hoping his work will pay off for me this one time.
Quarterly, you say? What's his specialization?
It's I hadn't heard of it before, but he's got apparently some rather out there theories about bacteria or something causing all of the maladies, and yes, but it's I'm not quite sure what to make of it. As you know, I'm not really not got a medical mind.
No, likewise, my friend. Us fighting men tend not to. And he gives him a little kind of knock on the arm.
Yeah.
Well, let's enjoy these cigars and perhaps take in the view. Let's see how far. I'm just going to have a quick look at the map.
Yeah, no, you can't. Let's say you've gone down to the river. It's the closest, sort of the closest thing to where you are.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Yeah.
So we'll just take a little seat down by the river and smoke our cigars. And as we're smoking them, I ask, so the other men in that unit with you, what kind of things are they in for? Are they all like you and I?
Well, no, not really. That's why this Quarterly's treatment seems a little out of the ordinary, really. These people seem to be in for all sorts. Invariably, the treatment seems to be very similar, as far as I can tell.
What kind of techniques have you known him to apply? What have you experienced yourself?
Well, it's obviously all a little bit behind closed doors, but as far as I can tell, there's something about removing the cause of the infection. I say I've got a procedure tomorrow, which they're apparently going to be taking out a little of this, a little of that, and it should hopefully tidy it all up. Some of the people in there, though, as you say, you couldn't see them being injured. It's all sorts of different things. Some of them I just could do with a good brandy, I'm sure, but here they are.
Well, couldn't we all?
Yes. I know I could.
And with that, I'm kind of... I don't really have much more to say aside from that, like, these guys can enjoy their cigar, enjoy their time by the river, and once they've finished, wander back up to the sanitarium, where I will bid Jenkins a good day and tell him that I'll probably be back in a day or two to check on him and find out how his treatment's gone.
Well, yes, that'd be good to check in on me. Hopefully I'll be, well, this'll be some improvement.
And with that,
Yes.
Barnard will get up and wander out and get it. He will wander down the road. I'm not going to take the taxi. I'm going to walk down the road, and if
You're
there's
gonna walk
anything
back?
to,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, if there's anything to tell at that point, then tell. But otherwise, we can pass on to somebody else, and I'll go back to lodgings.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you see Jenkins back to his ward and wander down the road again. It's sort of a cloudy day, so it's not particularly warm at all or anything. But you've got your coat and your scarf and everything, so you're wrapped up. And you make your way back into town. It's about a 10-15 minute walk, and eventually find your way back to the lodgings. Let's return to Madame Sway in the church then. So you were sitting quietly in a pew. Were you praying, or you're just sort of contemplating?
She was sort of contemplating the beauty of the little church, and she was possibly looking to see if the priest or the vicar was nearby.
Okay. There's no priest up on the pulpit at the moment. Looking around, there's a couple of people sort of in the pews. You would guess maybe that there's going to be some kind of morning service at some point. Has Madame Sway got a watch? Has she got? Is she just sort of going by the church clock?
No, she'd be going by the church clock. She
Okay.
wouldn't have a watch.
It's coming up for about 10 o'clock, so you would think maybe there's a 10 a.m. service. Although, as I say, there's no real sign of any priest or a verger or anyone coming out, which you would think is a little odd. In the row in front of you, your eyes drawn to a younger girl. You put her about 17, who sort of head bowed in prayer. It seems you sort of get a sort of slight side look on her, and she does appear to have been crying, but is sort of muttering a little bit under her breath in prayer and that.
Seeing that, I've noticed that she's been crying, and does she look like she's a local? That's what he's going to assume.
Yeah, you would. I mean, without asking, there's no way of knowing really. But yeah.
She'll probably know about the priest a lot more, so she's going to move pews and sit not directly next to her, but like at the end of the pew, and then quietly inquire if there's a morning service this morning.
The girl kind of starts a little bit sort of like you caught it, not caught her by surprise, but she wasn't expecting to be sort of disturbed. So, oh yes, sorry, I didn't see you there. Father William should be along soon, hopefully.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to frighten you, my dear. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'll be all right.
Oh, I hope that wasn't me that did that to your pet.
Oh no, it's not been a great week.
Not for me either. I've had a long journey, me. It'd be nice to have a word with the chaplain, though.
Yes, I want to speak to him as well. But at this point, actually, you do hear sort of some quite hurried footsteps echoing down from the back of the church. And looking around, you can see a man. He's not coming down the main aisle. He's sort of going across the back, wearing priestly robes. But he actually appears to be leading a policeman, and that they seem to be in a hurry. They're heading again, like I say, kind of across the church. You can see there's a door to one side, which you would guess would maybe lead to some sort of, I don't know, private area, sort of office or priest quarters. Trying to think of the name for it. Sort of rectory.
Antechamber. Antechamber.
Yeah. That's what you would guess anyway. I mean, it was your first time in this church. But yeah, they do appear to be in a bit of a hurry. The girl looks around as well, and she spots the priest leading the policeman. She says, "Oh, that's Father Williams there with well, it looks like Constable Peterson. Maybe you can speak to him before the service if you really needed to."
Constable, lovely. I'm not quite sure what to do, actually.
Yeah, no, it's totally up to you. You can stay, you can wait, or you can follow the priest. It is completely up to you.
No, I'm more sways and more in her mind is like, constable, that means trouble. I don't really want to be involved with trouble. Why is there a constable in the church of all places?
That's a very good question.
A little unnerved, but a little curious at the same time. You wouldn't know why the constable's here, right, little dove?
No, I mean that there's been some trouble recently in town. People going missing. But I don't think it'd be anything to do with that. Not in the church. No.
Missing, you say? Who? What kind of folk?
All sorts. My neighbour's boy was out fishing in the harbour. They never found him. A few folks have not been seen for a little while.
What do you mean a little while?
Well, over
a day, a week?
Well, you never know. They may just have gone away for a trip or something and not told anyone. But some of them didn't seem the sort. Mrs. Green's brother went missing as well, and there's talk of others, but I don't really know anymore. I don't know anything about it. My mum says to stay in when I can.
Oh, what a terrible thing to happen. And I heard such good things about the theatre and the sea air and the healing. Oh, my nerves. Oh dear.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. My mum isn't happy about it at all.
Well, I'll maybe see you later, pet. I'll maybe see if the constable's done with the priest for now, and she's gonna bid her good day and walk in the direction towards where the priest was.
Okay. The girl sort of she nods goodbye to you. So you follow where you saw the priest and the policeman going. They've left the door to the sort of side area ajar, so you can go in there if you'd like. That seems to be one of the only ways off of this main sort of hall of the church.
Can she just linger in the doorway, just out of sight, just to see if she can hear anything else?
Sure. I mean, you quickly get the impression that this is leading to a corridor. You can hear some muffled sounds inside of talking, but you can't make out what they're saying from that. It does appear the voices are a little bit raised and a little bit. Again, you can't figure out what's being said, but you can hear there's tension in the air.
She's going to swallow her nerves and back away then, and leave it for another time, and head back to the theatre.
Okay, so you turn away from the door, and as you're making your way out of the church, behind you hear the door of the corridor opening, and the policeman hurries out past you. Seems to be in a big hurry. He gets outside before you and quickly turns left, sort of away from the entranceway. And as you leave, you can actually hear the sounds of him vomiting.
Oh dear. Ugh. So is he just ahead of me, or?
Yes, yeah. He's come out of the front door of the church and is sort of headed for the nearest flower bed, almost.
Oh my goodness, Pet, are you all right?
I've never seen nothing like that before.
Seen what? What thing have you seen that's driven you to that?
The verger, he's half gone.
The what?
The verger, he's missing his middle. Oh God.
Who's missing their middle?
The verger of the church. Mr. Wilkins. Oh God. Oh.
What's happened to him? He's dead?
Oh, yeah, I'd say.
Oh my goodness. Was it an accident? A murder, or? Oh my nerves.
I couldn't say, miss. I probably shouldn't be saying. Well, ain't no accident take out the middle foot of a man.
Well, maybe we should go back inside and ask the father
to
maybe get you a spot of tea or something.
I ain't going back in there. I need this fresh air. Oh, Sergeant's gonna have me neck.
So he's gonna bend down and like hitch up the bottom of her dress and lift and pull out a little small whiskey vial out of the back of her boot. Here, I use this now and again for my nerves, just for my nerves. But you take a spot of that.
Much obliged, madam. He takes a swig. It burns a little bit. He hands you back the flask.
Now, I saw a young girl in there crying as well, and she told me that people are going missing. Is this true?
I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but yeah, it's in the first such incident. You get my meaning.
And what is the advice? What should we do? How should we protect ourselves?
I don't know. By the looks of things, the Virgin was inside. Still, we've been telling people stay in your houses, but I don't know what to do. I ain't never seen nothing like this before.
Well, I hope you catch whoever it is, and soon, and good luck.
Oh, thank you. I think I'll just take a little bit of extra fresh air. I need to cool this in.
Yes, and I'm just going to forcibly take her bottle back. Yes, and I think I shall maybe take some of this for my own nerves. Good day.
Oh, good day, madam. Okay, so what are you thinking?
I think seeing that the policeman in front of her was sick over the fact of a dead body and things going on, she doesn't believe that the church has any safe refuge, to be honest.
That's fair. That's probably a good thought.
So she's going to go back towards the theatre.
Okay. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back next week with our very first world-building episode, so be sure to tune in for that. Our next story episode, episode 44, continuing where we left off today, will be available, as usual, in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, the 14th of February. In the meantime, you can get in contact with us on Twitter and Facebook, both of which we're at Pretend With Dice. You can also email us at pretendingwithdice@outlook.com. If you're an iTunes user, it'd be really great if you could leave us a rating and review. It'll help us to find new listeners, and we'd really just love to hear what you all think of the podcast. So, for now, that's our show. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.